In terms of things that we could have seen coming from a mile away, it goes the sun rising in the morning, and Trump's media company tanking in the stock market, along with any profits that the suckers who bought shares in it were hoping to take. As of market close on Monday, Trump's media company, that owns Truth Social, is down over 21% in a single session, wiping away all gains since the DJT ticker went live in the market just a few days ago. The reason for the massive losses? Well, that's simple. The company released its finances, showing that business genius Donald Trump's company reported a net loss of $58 million in 2023, with revenue of just $4.1 million. Now, admittedly, I'm not a math guy, but earning only $4 million on losses of $58 million doesn't seem great. To put things into perspective here, for those not versed in the intricacies of the stock market, Nvidia is basically the hottest company in the world right now. Here's what that stock looks like over the last 5 years. Nvidia is trading at about 37 times revenue. Trump Media, by contrast, with losses of $58 million on $4 million in earnings, is trading at 1,600 times revenue. That means Trump Media is trading at over 40 times higher than the hottest stock in the world, all while showing an absolutely dismal balance sheet. If I had to pick an analogy here, I would probably liken this to the Hindenburg. The fact is that this isn't a real company. It is an influence campaign. It's Donald Trump selling garbage shares of a loser company, all predicated on the allure of his brand. And it's actually a pretty apt microcosm for how Trump's brand operates, because he frames it as the hottest thing on the face of the earth and convinces the rubes who love him to pay for it, and yet when you take even a cursory glance under the hood, it becomes abundantly clear that it is trash. And of course, the people who get screwed over are the people dumb enough to believe in a guy who was just found liable for fraud in a New York courtroom to the tune of $500 million. So while I certainly don't want to victim shame here, I'm sorry, but if you can watch Donald Trump get hit with a fraud verdict literally just this past month and still give this guy your money, then you kind of deserve what's coming to you. In fact, while the right decries the mainstream media as fake, here's a bunch of those journalists themselves warning of what would happen only a few days later.
This sounds like a pump and dump. Wouldn't you, if you were still New York AG, wouldn't you be prosecuting somebody for this?
If you go and buy the stock, let's say from him, you're actually buying from him, and it goes down, you actually, if you sell it, you will have a tax loss.
I think that the value is essentially worthless. If they went to market and tried to sell $3 billion, the value of the stock would go to zero practically immediately.
Followed, of course, by Jesse Waters and other Fox hosts mocking those journalists for what would inevitably come to pass just days later.
Jesse, the liberal litigators made President Trump much more wealthy. It's like a own goal.
It's karma, Jessica.
Yep.
And it's so funny the Democrats have been bragging about Biden's stock market. And now they're like, oh, it's a ploy. The whole stock market's a ploy. And Joy Reid wants to investigate Trump, but not Nancy Pelosi. Talk about a pump and dump. Nancy and Paulie P have been pumping and dumping their whole lives. Pillow talk. All of a sudden, he happens to know exactly when and where to sell and what to buy.
Yep.
Just happens to be his wife's the Speaker of the House. Come on, Jessica. The whole market is a pump and dump. Eventually, stock market's going to correct, and everybody on the inside is going to sell, and everybody else is going to be sitting here like, what just happened? This is the way life is. What do you think the Clinton Foundation was? Clinton Foundation was 1,000 times worse than Truth Social going public. It's listed on a stock exchange. It's got transparency. Instead, the Clinton Foundation just goes to the Saudis while she's Secretary of State and says, pay up. They give her $20 million and they use it on their daughter's wedding.
25.
Come on, Jessica. The whole thing is a scam.
She didn't take $2 billion like Jared Kushner.
The whole thing is a scam. The Clintons don't even know what business is. They just know how to fleece it.
I mean this honestly. Is there anyone on the right who will tell their audiences the truth? From Trump grifting his own fans to Fox running cover for the guy, it seems that the only long-standing principle in the GOP is screwing over the people who trust them. As for Trump himself, the fact is that Trump media was likely never even meant to be profitable. But it is a way for foreign governments to be able to launder money to him. Nothing is stopping the Saudis or the Russians from buying up stock in his company, not unlike how they bought up rooms in Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. while he was president. Here's Trump's ghostwriter warning about exactly that.
I have to get your take on something he said, because I was rereading today your thoughts when he came down that escalator, announced he was running for president, and said because he wrote The Art of the Deal that made him qualified, and you said, well, great, I'll run for president since I'm actually the one who wrote it. He was asked today about this idea of maybe taking foreign money to help with his legal troubles. This is what he said in response to that.
I think you'd be allowed to, possibly. I don't know. I mean, if you go borrow from a big bank, many of the banks are outside of this. As you know, the biggest banks, frankly, are outside of our country. So you could do that, but I don't need to borrow money. I have a lot of money.
Do you think he'd do that?
100% without any question. In a New York minute or a London minute or a Middle Eastern minute. But he is more than willing to do anything right now. I mean, look at his range of remarks over the last month or two. I would say even earlier in his presidency, many of the things he said over the last several weeks would have eliminated him, would have destroyed him. But he is, as a writer in the New York Times said today, he is now a gangster. You know, he's a mafia don. He's, you know, it's mind-boggling to think that this is a person who people can look at and say, oh, he's a reasonable choice to be president of the United States. He belongs in a prison.
The fact is that Trump has always made sure that there is a way that hostile foreign governments and bad actors would be able to pay him. Trump media is absolutely no different. Rest assured, Donald Trump will always find a way to grift money from rich people while screwing over the little guy in the process. If we're really talking about brands, that is Donald Trump's brand to a T. And yet, still he'll pretend that that's not the case because his ability to grift that money relies on selling himself a certain way. Trump can't admit that he's a business failure because his whole brand is predicated on this bogus notion that he's rich and savvy, when clearly he's neither of those things. Frankly, all he has to show for himself is a lifetime of failed licensing deals that have almost unilaterally gone down in flames. Trump Airlines, Trump Steaks, Trump Vodka, Trump Mortgage, Trump the Game, Trump Wine, Trump Magazine, Trump University, Trump's casinos, all failures and frauds, all leading to a presidency that ended in 2 impeachments and 4 indictments and 91 criminal charges. Donald Trump wants to convey an image of success, but all he has to show for himself are failures. So this should go without saying, but I'll repeat it here. Do not give money to Donald Trump. Do not buy his NFTs, don't donate to his campaign, and certainly do not invest in his stock. If you're even thinking about giving money to Donald Trump, consider instead setting it on fire in the middle of the street, because at a bare minimum, there will be some modest entertainment value in just watching it burn. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.